Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. Well, I guess my goal, at least, is to make weekly videos. Today, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do that this particular week. So I've left it till the last minute. I've got up really early in the morning. You can probably hear my voice is a little bit lower than usual because I just woke up not very long ago. And what I thought I'd talk about this week is the need sometimes to prioritize rest above everything else. So there's lots of life that needs to keep going on, but the number one priority sometimes just has to be rest. As some of you know, I do life coaching for adults on the spectrum, and especially people in relationships with adults on the spectrum. And as part of that, I'm getting officially certified to be a life coach with the International Coaching Federation. And so I've been doing a lot of preparation for myself on that with coaching and things. And one of the things that I identified recently through my own life coaching was that I have all of these things that I would like to do. Right? Coaching is very much around what do you want to do? How do we get there? And I have all of these things that I would like to do, all of these projects that I'm working on and aspirations. But when we dug a little bit deeper, there was a bit of a barrier to doing those things. And the barrier was, as we identified in this session, that my number one priority at the moment is rest, which means that I can make as many goals as I want around things that I would like to do and learn and accomplish and create. But ultimately, if the process of doing those things interrupts the number one priority of rest, then I'm going to have a conflict there, and I need to find a way to slowly progress those other goals without sacrificing this number one priority, which is essentially look after myself and take a break and make sure that I don't burn out. So it's really interesting, I found, because it's not as if I stop aspiring to those other things. So one of the goals I identified for myself is working towards doing more speaking engagements, for example, because a lot of my work is online and there's not a lot of feedback. I say hi and it's a pre-recorded video. The chats are great because we get to interact a little bit, but I really love doing in-person events, which didn't happen in 2020 for reasons that you can probably guess. So that's a priority of mine that I would like to do more of, but I need to find a way to slowly get towards my goal without sacrificing my energy and without changing the ultimate priority of recharging my batteries and listening to my body and finding ways to do work in an energizing way where it's interesting and I'm passionate about it and I'm enthusiastic and it gives me energy to think about and to do, compared to the kind of work that you dread doing, like admin stuff for me and emails and all of this stuff where I have to push myself to try and get through it. So a quick strategy that I have discovered works pretty well recently is to acknowledge that all of these things in the background, especially maintenance tasks, they have to keep going. So taking a rest without managing the maintenance task, we tend to call that burnout, because you hit a wall, you fall off a cliff, and everything drops, which is usually not such a good thing to do. A better way is to find a way to manage the background things and give yourself the space to drop. So I find that I need a significant amount of time. It's not just an hour in the evening or a weekend. I need several days before my brain can kind of unwind properly and I even start to recover and start resting. So, as I mentioned in last week's video, I've recently moved house. So a lot of examples around that is there was so much packing and unpacking and cleaning and things to organize. I had to get internet. I had to cancel my electricity and find new ones and get and unpack things and organize and handle all of these administration things on top of just the everyday life things like cooking dinner and figuring out things like that. So I couldn't just let all of those drop. But what I needed to try to do was find a way to keep them ticking along in the background just enough without spending too much energy on them. So I found a couple of things that worked really well for me this week. I used to go to the gym in the morning. I'm not sure why I did that. I think I probably thought it was a good use of time or something to get up and do that first thing in the morning. But it just didn't work for my energy. And I found myself feeling as though that was a drain. That was something I had to do. I had to push myself to get out of bed, push myself to get there, push myself through the class. And then when I got home, I was tired and I needed to push myself to actually go to work. So instead, I do exactly the same thing, but at a different time of day. And now I get up and have a morning routine and have a full day's work. And then when I want to transition out of that, I'll go to the gym, which is a lot more, it might not be more enticing than going to bed. So it might not be enticing enough to get me out of bed, but it's enticing enough to get me to stop checking my emails and stop working at home. And then at the end, I'm really tired, same as in the morning, but in the evening, I'm allowed to be really tired because I don't need to get home and go back to work. I can actually check out for the evening and prioritize that rest and spend the entire evening tired after the gym. And then I've done the good thing of taking care of my body and I've had the time and space to actually rest once I got home. So that's one example that I found really worked really well this week. Another example is to do the same work that I love doing, like preparing for speaking engagements and things like that. I really love the intellectual exercise of playing with the ideas and sharing ideas and finding new ways to communicate. And all of that kind of stuff is really energizing. But if I have to do it under the pump in a schedule and I've only got an hour and I need to prepare this thing in a really short space of time, then all of a sudden that becomes a burden. So what I found is if I give myself a lot of extra time, so earlier this week I designated an entire afternoon to working on just one thing, which meant I could work as hard or as soft. Do you work softly? That doesn't work. As I like. I could play with whatever ideas were energizing at the time. I could take the time to do something. If I was really focused, I could go down a rabbit hole and it would be completely fine because I've got the time to do that. And the purpose, the number one purpose, is not get the presentation done. It's rest and energize myself and have fun doing it. And because I've had fun doing it and because it was an energizing task, by the end of the 4 hours, well, I've actually done the task as well. I've actually got this presentation ready to go because it was an energizing process and I really wanted to do it. It's the same with social events, I found. There are some types of social events that are just not very not very recharging, not very nourishing, I guess. For me, those type of events, I went to a community dinner the other day, and this was just after I'd moved house. And on reflection, I told probably 8 to 10 people the same story about I've just moved house, this and this and this, and we did this, and oh no, this. So I basically just repeated the same story 5 or 10 times over and over again. And then the conversation didn't really get much deeper than that because you get interrupted and you talk to someone else. And that kind of event is really not very nourishing for me. I would much rather talk to one person for an hour rather than 6 people for 10 minutes. So acknowledging what type of event I need, what type of social interaction I need, all with this one clarifying question in mind, which is my number one priority is rest. What can I do to make sure that that is being accomplished as well as everything else? So routines can be actually really helpful. I've got a cooking routine and a cleaning routine and a morning routine. And when I actually go through those tasks, it's not actually taking me very much energy. In fact, it's kind of nice to just turn my brain off and go and do the thing. When I realized I could use housework and especially cleaning to rest and relax, all of a sudden it's not work anymore. It's a Saturday afternoon and I'm really tired from a long week. I'm going to clean the apartment. And all of a sudden I'm getting useful stuff done and I'm giving my brain a break from the things that it needs a break from. Anyway, so I thought I'd share that with you today. I'm really glad that I didn't record this video yesterday. I was so wrecked yesterday. I'm also really glad that I got up early today. My voice is slowly warming up to record something really, really quickly for you this morning. It's so much harder to follow your own advice than it is to give advice. And sometimes this is a coaching prompt. Sometimes it's like, if you had to give advice to someone else in your situation, what would you tell them to do? And in my case, it's really obvious. If someone was telling me that they feel burnt out, if someone was telling me they had no energy, the first thing I would say is look after yourself. You are allowed to prioritize yourself. That if you do not prioritize yourself, how can you expect to accomplish all the other things? This is a big one for parents as well, and carers in general. If your primary role is to care for somebody else, that's fantastic. But if you don't care for yourself, how are you going to be able to care for someone else? So it makes sense, but actually applying it and actually believing that it's going to work and putting it into practice is a bit of a different story. So constantly learning, trying to follow my own advice and do that. I'd better leave it there, I guess, but thanks for watching, and I will see you again another time. Bye.